was going to link somebody to a video that I didn't have, so let's go ahead and make that video real quick. I'm going to start out over here in my tool palette. We're going to go over here to the Sphere 3D, drag it on our canvas, go into edit mode, make Polymesh 3D. Let's go down here to Subtool, Append. We'll just go ahead and grab a ring for an example. Take that ring, hit W, and we're just going to move that right up so you can see we have a ring in our scene. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this ring to create a mask on our sphere object. In fact, let's hit W again, hold down Control, and drag off a copy, and then Control drag in your canvas to get rid of that mask. Let's go ahead and hit Q to go back into draw mode. In fact, let's also hold down Control Shift, go in here to trim curve, and hold down Shift to snap my view to the side. I'm just going to trim off half of that. We're going to make a little bit more of an interesting object here. So again, we're going to use these noodles and where it intersects the sphere to make a mask. And it's pretty easy to do that. I can just take my sphere here, go down here to merge down, say OK. So now these are all merged together, and now I can just go over here. Let's go ahead and get rid of our brush menu, and it's docked over here on the side. You can just double click these arrows, grab our Z plugin, grab that white dot, pull it on over, go to intersection masker, hit create intersection mask. If I hold down Control Shift, let's switch this back to select rectangle. Control Shift click the sphere, you'll see we have a nice mask there. Control Shift drag to invert that selection, and you'll see where the sphere intersected the noodles will also have a mask. Now you're going to see it's a little bit of a jagged result here. If you turn on polyframe, it's because the geometry is dictating essentially that mask quality. So what we can do is we can hold down Control Shift, tap in your document to bring everything else back. Let's go down here to Geometry, Crease, and we're just going to run a Crease PG. That's going to put a crease right along any of our polygroup borders, which essentially is going to keep that very crispy on those noodles. So when we go up here to Geometry Divide, well, if we hit Geometry Divide right now, it's going to divide where the area is masked. So hold down Control and drag to unmask everything. And now go ahead and hit Control D or divide a couple times. Now, if I choose Create Intersection Mask now, it's going to yell at me that we have subdivisions. We can go over here and just say Delete Lower, and then say Create Intersection Mask. Let's go ahead and go into Polyframe, turn off that little line option. And you know what, let's also switch to Skin Shader 4 so we can see this a little bit better. And the reason why the material didn't update is because we have Polypaint turned on. Let's go ahead and turn off that paintbrush. So now if we hold down Control Shift click on the sphere and then Control Shift drag, you'll see the masks are a little bit nicer. Now if you just wanted this mask that creates a new geometry, of course you can do that. What I'm going to do is just go over here and say duplicate this entire thing off. Let's go into solo mode. Control Shift click the sphere, say Geometry, Modify Topology, Delete Hidden. And then for this mask over here, we can say Geometry, Edge Loop, Mask Border. If I Control drag now, you're going to see we have a polygroup here, so I can hold down Control Shift, select just the masked area, do another Geometry, Modify Topology, Delete Hidden. Now if we turn line back on, you can now feel free to go in here and say, maybe do a ZRemesher, target polygon count of say 2000-ish, depth size down to 0, hit ZRemesh, and let's hit half, and then hit ZRemesh again, and now you can see you can get very, very quick, easy geometry that you can go through here now with your ZModeler brush, BZM, hover over face, Cube Mesh, Polygroup All, you know, do whatever you need to do. Of course, you can also do an extraction and stuff like that, but in this case, we went for a nice, clean geometry. So now if I go back up to our original mesh here, let's go back into solo mode. If I Control drag, we can always go back down here to reconstruct subdivisions, and that'll get us back to where we started. And then we can just say delete higher if we want to. So that's an easy way to get a mask from intersecting objects. And of course, if you want to split these back up, just Control Shift, tap one, and then say like maybe split hidden. And again, you're back where you started. Now one interesting one, if we go back to our sphere, let's go BI brush insert, let's go into industrial parts, hit M, and we'll grab a nut, and we'll drag that on our object here, and we'll go back down here to the split menu and say split unmasked points. So now we have a sphere and a nut in our scene. Let's go ahead and hold down Shift and turn off the eyeball so all of our eyeballs turn off. And then we're just going to touch the eyeball for the sphere and the nut and then go out of solo mode. So like we mentioned before, your mask resolution is going to be dictated by your geometry resolution. So let's go ahead and hit Control D a couple times to subdivide up our sphere here. And then let's go into transparency mode so we can kind of see what we're doing, and we'll go out of polyframe mode. Let's go to BZP for the ZProject brush. Let's turn off Z sub, but turn on, leave RGB turned on. And let's go ahead and turn our poly paint back on. If we go through here and start painting, you're going to see it's going to limit where I can paint where that object is. Of course, it's camera based, so if I Control Z and then rotate my camera and kind of paint through here and then go back, you can see it's going to kind of skew again based on that camera angle. So kind of get a good look down on the object and then go through here and poly paint it. Now, if we hide the subtool, we're going to see we're left with the poly paint. If we want to mask where that poly paint is, that's easy enough. We can go down here to the masking menu. You can do mask by color, you can do mask by poly paint. You can just drag on this and then go ahead and select that black mask, or even easier, you can probably just go in here to mask by intensity. And then if we go back up here, turn the little paintbrush off to turn off colorize, you're going to see we have a mask now to do with what you want.